This is Crime, Mr. Wade, bringing you the stories. Stay tuned for a lot more.
Today's unfortunate story is about an Amelia Elizabeth Hobley. Popularity dubbed the Ogress of Reading, was an English serial killer who murdered infants in her care over a 30-year period during the Victorian era. Dyer's case led to stricter laws for adoption and child protection, and helped raise the profile of the fledgling National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, which formed in the year of 1884. Amelia Dyer was born the youngest of 5 children. Just east of Bristol, the daughter of master shoemaker Samuel Hobley and Sarah Hobley, Amelia learned to read and write and developed a love of literature and poetry. However, her childhood was marred by the mental illness of her mother caused by typhus. Amelia witnessed her mother's violent fits and was obliged to care for her until she died in the year of 1848. Researchers later commented on the effect this had on Dyer and what it taught her about the symptoms exhibited by those who appeared to lose their mind through the illness. Miss Dyer had an elder sister, Sarah Ann, who died in the year of 1841 at the age of 6, and a younger sister also named Sarah Ann, who died in the year of 1845, aged a few months. An elder cousin had an illegitimate daughter at the time who later accepted as a daughter of the grandparents, William and Martha Hobley, who were Dyer's aunt and uncle. After her mother's death, Amelia lived with an aunt in Bristol for a time before serving an apprenticeship with a corset maker. Her father died in the year 1859. Her eldest brother, Thomas, inherited the family shoe business in the year of 1861 at the age of 24. Amelia became permanently estranged from at least one of her brothers, James, and moved into lodgings in Trinity Street, Bristol. There she married George Thomas. George was 59, and they both lied about their ages on their marriage certificate to reduce the age gap. George deducted 11 years from his age, and Amelia added 6 years to hers. Many sources later reported this age as fact, causing much confusion. After marrying George Thomas, Dyer trained as a nurse. From contact with a midwife, Ellen Dane, she learned of an easier way to earn a living, using her own home to provide lodgings for young women who had conceived illegitimately and then farming off the babies for adoption and allowing them to die of neglect and malnutrition. Dane was forced to decamp to the U.S. shortly after meeting Amelia to escape the attention of the authorities. Unmarried mothers during the Victorian period often struggled to gain an income since the year of 1834. Poor Law Amendment Act had removed any financial obligation from the fathers of illegitimate children, with bringing up their children in a society where single parents and illegitimacy were stigmatized. This led to the practice of baby farming, in which individuals acted as adoption or fostering agents to return for regular payments or a single upfront fee from the baby's mother. Many businesses were set up to take in these young women and care for them until they gave birth. The mothers subsequently left their unwanted babies to be looked after as nurse children. The predicament of the parents involved were often exploited for financial gain. If a baby had well-off parents who wanted to keep their birth a secret, the single fee might be much as 80 pounds. 50 pounds might be negotiated if the father of the child wanted to hush up the involvement. However, it was more common for these expectant young women to be improvised. Such women would be charged about 5 pounds. Unscrupulous carers resorted to starving the farmed out babies to save money and even to hasten death. Noisy or demanding babies could be sedated with easily available alcohol or opiates. Known colloquially as a mother's friend, a syrup containing opium was a frequent choice, but there were several other similar preparations. Many children died as a result of such dubious practices. Opium killed far more infants through starvation than directly through overdose. Dr. Greenhow, investigating for the Privy Council, noted how children kept in a state of continued narcotism will be thoroughly disciplined for food, be but imperfectly nourished. Death from severe malnutrition will result, but the coroner was likely to record the death as a debility from birth, or lack of breast milk, or simply just plain starvation. Mothers who choose to reclaim or simply check on the welfare of their children could often encounter difficulties, but some would simply be too frightened or ashamed to tell the police about any suspected wrongdoing. Even the authorities often had problems tracing any children that were reported missing. Dyer was very keen on how to make money from baby farming, and alongside taking in expecting women, she advertised to nurse and adopt a baby in return for substantial one-time off payment and adequate clothing for the child. In her advertisements and meetings with clients, she assured that there was respectable and married and that she would provide a safe and loving home for the child. In the year of 1872, Amelia married William Dyer, a brewer's laborer from Bristol. They had 2 children together, Mary Ann, also known as Polly, and William Samuel. Amelia eventually left her husband. At some point in her baby farming career, Dyer decided to forego the expense and inconvenience of letting the children die through neglect and starvation. Soon after the receipt of each child, she murdered them, thus allowing her pocket most of all of the fee. For some time, Dyer eluded the resulting interest of the police. She was eventually caught in the year of 1879 after a doctor was suspicious about the number of child deaths he had been called to certify in Dyer's care. However, instead of being convicted of a murder or manslaughter, she was sentenced to 6 months hard labor. The experience allegedly almost destroyed her mentally, though others had expressed incredulity of the leniency of the sentence when compared to those handed out for lesser crimes at that time. Upon release, she attempted to resume her nursing career. She had spells in mental hospitals due to mental instability and suicidal tendencies. These always coincided with times when it was convenient for her to disappear. Being a former asylum nurse, Dyer knew how to behave to ensure a relatively comfortable experience an asylum inmate. Dyer appears to have begun abusing alcohol and opium-based products early in her killing career. Her mental instability could have been related to her substance abuse. In the year of 1890, Dyer cared for the illegitimate baby of a governess. When she returned to visit the child, the governess was immediately suspicious and stripped the baby to see if a birthmark was present on one of his hips. It wasn't, and prolonged suspicion by the authorities led to Dyer having or springing a breakdown. Dyer at one point drank 2 bottles of linoleum in a serious suicide attempt, but her long-term use had built up her tolerance to opium products, so she survived. In the year of 1893, Dyer was discharged from her final commitment at the Somerset and Bath Lunatic Asylum near Wales. Unlike previous breakdowns, this had been a most disagreeable experience, and she never entered another asylum. 2 years later, Dyer moved to Coversham, Berkshire, accompanied by an unsuspecting associate, Jane Granny Smith, whom Dyer had recruited from a brief spell in a workhouse, and Dyer's daughter and son-in-law, Mary Ann, known as Polly, and Arthur Palmer. This was followed by a move to the 45 Kingston Road, Reading, Berkshire, later named the same year. Smith was persuaded by Dyer to refer to as mother in front of innocent women handing over their children. This was an effort to present a caring mother-daughter image. In January, the year of 1896, Evelina Mormon, a popular 25-year-old barmaid, gave birth to an illegitimate daughter named Doris in a boarding house in Chillingham. She quickly sought offers of adoption and placed an advertisement in the miscellaneous section of the Bristol Times and Mirror newspaper. It simply read, "Wanted, respectable woman to take a young child." Mormon intended to go back to work and hopefully to eventually reclaim her child. Coincidentally, next to her own ad in the paper was an advertisement reading, "Married couple with no family would adopt a healthy child. Nice country home." Miss Mormon wanted to pay a more affordable weekly fee for the care of her daughter, but Miss Harding insisted on being given the one-time off payment in advance. Mormon was in dire straits, so she reluctantly agreed to pay, and a week later, Miss Harding arrived in Chillingham. Mormon was surprised by Dyer's advanced age and stocky appearance, but as Dyer was affectionate towards Doris, Evelina handed over the daughter and a cardboard box of clothes. Still distressed at having to give up a care for her daughter, Evelina accompanied Dyer to Shuttingham Station and then on to Gloucester. She returned to lodgings a broken woman. A few days later, she received a letter from Miss Harding saying all was well, and Mormon wrote back but received no reply. Miss Dyer did not travel to Reading, as she told Mormon. She went instead of to 76 Mayo Road, Willesden, London, where her 23-year-old daughter, Polly, was staying. Dyer quickly found some white edging tape used in dressmaking, wound it twice around the baby's neck, and tied a knot. Death would not have been immediate. Dyer later said, "I used to like to watch them with tape around the neck, but it was soon all over for them." Both women allegedly helped to wrap the body in a napkin. They kept some of the clothes Mormon had packed. The rest was destined for pawnbroker. Dyer paid the rent to the unwilling landlady and gave her a pair of child's boots as a present for her own little girl. The following day, Wednesday, April 1st in the year of 1896, another child named Harry Simmons was taken to Mayo Road. However, with no spare white edging tape available, the length around Doris's corpse was removed and used to strangle the 13-month-old boy. On April 2nd, both bodies were stacked into a carpet bag, along with bricks for added weight. Dyer then headed for reading in a secluded spot she knew well near a weir of Culverstrom Lock. She forced the carpet bag through railings into the river bottom. Unbeknownst to Dyer, on March 30th, the year of 1896, a package was retrieved from the Thames of Reading by a bargainman. The package Dyer dumped in the river was not weighed adequately and had been easily spotted. It contained the body of a baby girl, later identified as Helen Fry, in the small detective force available to Reading police. Detective Constable Anderson made a crucial breakthrough, as well as finding a label from Temple Mead Station, Bristol. He used microscopic analysis of the wrapping paper and deciphered a faintly legible name, Miss Thomas, and an address. This and other evidence was enough to lead police to Dyer. It transpired that Dyer was expecting her new client, the decoy, to call, but instead, she found detectives waiting at her doorstep. On April 3rd, Good Friday, the police raided her home. They were struck by the stench of human decomposition. Although no human remains were found, there was, however, plenty of other related evidence, including white edging tape, telegrams regarding adoption arrangements, pawn tickets for children's clothing, receipts for advertisements, and letters from mothers inquiring about the well-being of their children. The police calculated that in the previous few months alone, at least 20 children had been placed in the care of Miss Thomas, now revealed to be Amelia Dyer. It also appeared that she was about to move home again, this time to Somerset. This rate of murder has led to some estimates that Miss Dyer may, over the decades, have killed over 400 babies and children, making her one of the most prolific murderers ever. Dyer was arrested on April 4th and was charged with murder. Her son-in-law, Arthur Palmer, was charged as an accessory. During April, the Thames were indwelled and 6 more bodies were discovered, including Doris Mormon and Harry Simmons, Dyer's last victims. Each baby had been strangled with white tape, which, as she later told the police, was how she could tell it was one of mine. 11 days after handing the daughter to Dyer, Evelina Mormon, whose name had emerged in items kept by Dyer, identified her daughter's remains. It took the jury only 4.5 minutes to find her guilty. In her 3 weeks in the condemned cell, she filed 5 exercise books with her last true and only confession. A chaplain visited her night before her execution and asked if she had anything to confess. She offered him the exercise book, saying, "Isn't this enough?" Curiously, she was subpoenaed to appear as a witness in Polly's trial for murder, set for a week after her execution date. However, it was ruled that Dyer was already legally dead once sentenced, and that therefore her evidence would be inadmissible. Thus, her execution was not delayed. On the evening of her execution, Dyer heard the charges against Polly had been dropped. Dyer was hanged by James Bellingham at the Newgate prison on Wednesday, June 10th, the year 1896. Asked on the scaffold if she had anything to say, she said, "I have nothing to say," just before being dropped at 9 a.m. precisely. It is uncertain how many more children Amelia Dyer murdered. However, inquiries from mothers, evidence of other witnesses, and material found in Dyer's homes, including letters and many babies' clothes, pointed to many, many more. And because she was a murderess alive at the time of the Jack the Ripper killings, some have suggested that Dyer was Jack the Ripper. This suggestion put forward by author William Stewart, although he preferred Mary Piercy as his chosen suspect. This is, however, no evidence to connect Dyer to Jack the Ripper murders, and she does not figure prominently among the Jack the Ripper suspects. Adoption laws were subsequently made stricter, giving local authorities the power to police baby farms in hope of stamping out abuse. Despite this and the scrutinizing of newspaper personal ads, the trafficking and abuse of infants did not stop. 2 years after Dyer's execution, railway workers inspecting carriages at Newport Abbot, Devon, found a parcel. Inside was a 3-week-old girl. Though cold and wet, she was still alive. The daughter of a widow, Jane Hill, the baby had been given to Miss Stewart. She had picked up the baby at Plymouth and dumped her on the next train. It has been claimed that Miss Stewart was Polly, the daughter of Amelia Dyer. I hope you guys enjoyed this unfortunate story of Amelia Dyer. I'm Mr. Wade and Mrs. Crime. And once again, we bring it to you.